We have a few minutes here, a couple of questions that have come through, and I encourage anybody else, please feel free to submit your questions in the chat box, and we'll try to capture them and get them answered. So the first question that I have here is from Krista to Doe and the mushroom substrates. When checking the nutrient value of mushrooms, are you looking at specific mushrooms? And are you looking at specific nutrients as they are so high in antioxidants? What are your plans for refeeding them, i.e. dehydrating, grinding, etc.?
Yeah, thanks, Gary, and thanks, Krista, for that question. Very interesting. This actually is our very early stage of trying to valorize the mushroom stems produced so much in Kennedy Square area. So to begin with, as I said, this is the early stage. We are just using the most common mushroom stems from the most common type. That is the white button mushrooms, and it's produced, the stems is produced plenty, and it's dumped in the dumpster as waste when we visited the facility. So we took some home, and for the nutrient analysis, our first phase was concentrating on the macronutrients. That is the carbohydrates, the protein, and then the soluble carbohydrates, and the digestibility. So that's our first phase. All right, and then we are also interested in analyzing for the micronutrients, including vitamins and the antioxidants. But those analyses would have to come in later because we have to prioritize the use of the available resources for this analysis. And in terms of how to incorporate this into dairy feeding, our first trip to the mushroom facility, we collected a bunch of the stems, and we took it home and took it back to New Bolton, and I took it to a dairy farmer and offered to the cows. And the cows didn't touch them. And we didn't know why, and they did a bunch of literature search, could not find any information about it. So that was just the mushroom stems by themselves. And then the next phase, we mixed these mushroom stems together with some other material, including the vegetables and fruits unsold from supermarket, and also including corn stalks. And these were mixed, and we did and inside. And then when we mixed this fermented material, mixture of fermented material, and then mixed to the normal dairy feeds at the farm, and cows did not have problem. So this second phase of offering and feed trial just happened last Friday at Marshak Dairy. So going forward, whether we would want to dehydrate the mushroom stems or grinding them, that's remain to be done. We are still in the early stage of our research. And I wanted to say that fresh mushrooms are very rich in nutrients, particularly protein. So it's going to be a very good source of nutritious stuff for being used in the feed. So we need to find the best way to present this as a feed supplements to dairy cows, whether it's milking cows or dry cows or growing heifers.
Thank you, Dr. Doe. We have one quick question for Gordon Hoover. The question was related to if you had seen any challenges that you needed to overcome as far as with getting the farmers to be a collective and on board with the initiative that you discussed.
Yes, I think most of the audience I was dealing with are the plain sect farmers, specifically Amish. And so I guess the best way to describe it is a little rural psychology, sociology I have 3 daughters. They're all out of college. I told every one of them, one of you has got to study rural sociology because farmers are nuts and you got to figure out how to deal with them. None of them took me up on it. But anyway, when you're dealing with these small farmers, the best aspect is helping them through the change cycle. So a lot of small farmers are small because they didn't adapt to change, and that's not 100%. Don't take that as a criticism or critique of small farmers. Some are in niche businesses. They don't need to be large farms. But the Amish specifically, their social structure with their churches have kind of restricted them to just family-sized farms. So we haven't seen the traditional consolidation in the small farms in Lancaster County, Southeast PA, in these plain set communities. So the biggest challenge is helping them through the change cycle. And the best way to do that is to start with a relationship. So as I said in my comments, me being a fellow farmer, a neighbor, understanding the business they're in, helps to develop that relationship pretty fast. Once you break the ice and develop the relationship, then you bring in the plethora of talent out there that that a lot of these young folks in the call can develop their special interest into. So engineering to develop best management practice designs, agronomy for soil health, communications. If you don't like the science part of agriculture, there's a whole demand for communications and sociology, psychology that I just mentioned. So getting farmers over the change cycle, helping them through that, developing these relationships that allow you to bring in the experts to help them facilitate the plans, the conservation implementation pieces that need to come out. So it's helping them through the change cycle and relationships. And that's really essential in just about any career, any industry you're working in.
Well, thank you for that response. Greatly appreciate the speakers and the panelists. And at this point, I'll turn it back to Dean Andy Hoffman for concluding remarks related to the Farm of the Future Symposium. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Althouse, and thanks again to the speakers for a brief spotlight on your questions. There will be, I'm sure, ongoing opportunities to interface with the speakers in personal communications and otherwise. I'm always fascinated from the last topic about whether small farmers ever get aggregated about larger picture situations like BMPs around water management. So that's a whole conversation in itself, and I appreciate you brought that to light. So we've come to a close after 7 sessions and about a year of planning. We come to a close to our first Farm of the Future Symposium, sadly. But based on the enthusiastic participation, we do plan to reorganize future virtual and in-person symposia around this theme. And I just mentioned that there were anywhere from 84 to 170 attending at any one time on the live, when things went live. We've had, in addition, another 45 or 243 views of the videos of each of the sessions. We've had 700 people sign up for the course of the event, and we've had 3,000 page views. This wasn't in Eventbrite. This wasn't possible live. We had initially talked about a live symposium, but here we are. And I think this has been a really grand success. And just as we've opened up with an inspirational land acknowledgement by the Chief Lenape Turtle, Chief Man, I invite you to join me in some acknowledgements of the time and engagement and generosity of our conversations around future farming. So if you wouldn't mind turning on your cameras for a minute so we can just kind of get together and applause and show our appreciation. I think we can handle it with the bandwidth. So for just a moment, I want to thank all of the speakers, and I'll go through a thank you list, but certainly the speakers from today and all the speakers and students that attended, the faculty, the scholars, the farm innovators, the leaders, and everyone that's sat in and attended the Farm of the Future Symposium. So a round of applause, a warm round of applause for everyone. This was meant to be an inclusive process. It wasn't a data specifically a scientific symposium that was specifically data-driven. It was meant to be integrative. It was meant to be inclusive. And we wanted to bring thought leaders together that would stimulate all of us to go out and think about things in a different way. And of course, when we talk about knowledge, we talk about the knowledge generation, which is research, the knowledge networking. And so we have a network, and the knowledge diffusion, which is the long life of these videos and these future collaborations. So I do want to thank the Farm of the Future donors. Your support brought this virtual symposium to fruition. We're grateful for generosity and foresight in knowing that a great transformation can happen when a group of dedicated people come together to share ideas and scholarship. And we can turn these ideas and thoughts into action, because the next steps in the Farm of the Future is to strengthen our partnership with the Weitzman School of Design, and the director of Praxis is here, Ellen Nieses, and I guess you all know her by now, and we will continue to strengthen our partnership in the next phase of planning of the new Bolton Center itself. A great big thank you then to the amazing team at PennPraxis at the Weitzman School of Design, and specifically Ellen Nieses, the extraordinary Farm of the Future partner and executive director of PennPraxis, who also was introduced to me through Dean Fritz Steiner, who's the dean of the School of Design, who is very, very open to this from the very, very first minute that we started talking about it. And of course, Dean Steiner has agriculture in his heart and landscape scale projects in his heart. Nick Pevsner, a lecturer, Tom Daniels, professor in the landscape architecture department and city and regional planning department from the School of Design. Zachary Homaker, producer, director, MC, comedian, everything. Yes, more applause there, as well as Katie Levesque, also videographer, creator, innovator, making things happen, communicator, as well as Rebecca Sabinga, a Praxis Design Fellow. So thanks to everybody at Praxis. This has been a great partnership. So from the vet school to the design school, thank you so much. We look forward to our future together. And thank you to our presenters. Each one brought fresh ideas, perspectives, new knowledge, future strategies to overcome the challenge of feeding the world and preserving the ecosystem resources on our planet. We're truly grateful for your time, your expertise, and all that you're doing for agriculture for the benefit of humanity. And thank you especially to our young people who have joined us in the symposium and on today's panel. Your commitment to the study and implementation of best practices in agriculture, and however you're going to do it in animal science or in plant science, will truly change the world for the better. I'd also like to publicly thank Secretary Redding. Secretary Redding gave a great keynote introduction to this symposium and has been participating and has been an incredible partner to the University of Pennsylvania throughout. He really not only was an avid participant, but when you think about it, he has been an architect of the Pennsylvania Farm Bill. We are the only state, I believe, with a farm bill, and through his leadership in Pennsylvania has really enabled workforce development, opportunities for new farmers in particular, improving land conservancy, improving animal health and production, a lot of the things that were discussed here. And he's a very innovative secretary. So your leadership in the Commonwealth is very, very palpable in these times and deeply appreciated. And to our Penn Vet colleagues, many of which are here on this call, who have helped and supported the symposium, a special thank you to Gary Althouse, the Associate Dean for Sustainable Agriculture and Veterinary Medicine, who you just saw, and the Development and Marketing Communications team led by Marty Hackett, who's I can see right there, and his team, Hannah Kleckner and Margaret Lairdy and the rest of the group. We have been so thankful for all of you. Take care, and we look forward to our next time together in Farm of the Future.